What's going on, guys? I'm Zach from the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we will be talking about some Pokemon facts that I am willing to bet that you don't know. And in fact, let's make this a little interesting. If you're new to the channel, why don't you hit that subscribe button, and if you are already subscribed, you can hit the like button, and if you know all of these facts by the end of the video, then you can unsub, or you can unlike. Now let's get into it. So the first thing is going to take us to the Unova region, and this is going to be about Oshawott's origins. So Oshawott is very clearly based off of an otter. I know you all know that. Dewott is too. Now Samurai is where it gets interesting. Samurai is based off of a sea lion, but there's a pretty neat story behind why this is. So originally, the designer of the Oshawott line was sent to the aquarium to go look at the otters and kind of just get an inspiration from that and come up with a final design for the Oshawott line. However, he wasn't prepared for what he would see: the sea lion exhibit next to the otter exhibit. He ended up so fascinated behind these sea lions, he fell in love with them and ended up just scrapping the whole otter idea and drew a sea lion evolution for Oshawott and Dewott, which kind of makes sense for why the evolution between Oshawott and Dewott is so minimal, yet the evolution between Dewott and Samurai is one of the most drastic we've ever seen in a starter Pokemon line. Now, sticking with the Unova region, and kind of sticking into its creation, we have the Basculin pair, duo, whatever you want to call them. So the reason these were actually added into the game was because, of course, this was the Unova region, so they tried to just do all new Pokemon in the decks. There were no old Pokemon in the decks. You couldn't access them into the post-game. Well, they thought that they didn't have enough water types. So the artists were told, we need a new water type. Design us a new water type. And so Basculin was born. They designed a bass Pokemon. It was a little fish. And then they were like, you know what? That's not enough. We need more water type Pokemon in this game. So they took that same fish and they gave it a blue stripe, and then they copied it and gave it a red stripe instead. And so they had two different Basculin forms. All it was supposed to be was kind of just dex filling, just to kind of make it look like the decks had more water types. That's why they did two of them, and that's why Basculin was added in. So Basculin was actually a very late game addition to the Unova Pokemon. Now, once again, sticking with Unova, we have Elgyem. So, Elgyem actually learns Steel Wing, and that's kind of wild in itself, but there is a little bit more to it. Elgyem specifically learns Steel Wing in Pokemon X and Y, and the reason this is, well, it's one of two reasons. For one, Elgyem previously learned Ally Switch, which was TM51 in Unova. So some people think that what it is Steel Wing is TM51 in Kalos, and so they kind of just didn't really translate it over well, and Elgyem ended up being eligible for this TM51, which just happened to be a different move that made no sense altogether. However, some people think that this was actually intentional, because you see, Elgyem is an alien. And specifically, he's an alien in a region based off of the US, which happens to have a very famous place called Area 51. Area 51 obviously is said to house aliens, or the government's research on aliens and UFOs, all that fun stuff. But some people believe this was all intentional, and the reason Elgyem can learn Steel Wing is because it was TM51. And TM51 happens to kind of be the same number as Area 51, a big tie to aliens. So be sure to let me know what you think this is. Do you think this is because Ally Switch just translated over, or do you think that they did this intentionally as a little Easter egg for Area 51? Now we're going to move away from the Unova region, and we're going to head over to the Johto region. One of the Johto legendary Pokemon is Lugia, but did you know that while Lugia is, like all legendary Pokemon, genderless, it actually was intended to be a girl? You see, Lugia was designed for the second Pokemon movie, Pokemon the Movie 2000, whatever you want to call it, and it was intended by its creator to be a very maternal Pokemon and be voiced by a woman. He was very upset when he found out that Lugia was being voiced by a man in the movie, and then in the games ended up being genderless altogether. But it was intended by Lugia's creator for Lugia to be not only a female Pokemon, but also a very maternal figure. Now, sticking with Johto, we have a fun little fact about Eeveelutions. So obviously you know that there are these Eeveelutions in Johto called Espeon and Umbreon. But did you know that Johto was actually originally supposed to have a 3-chain Eeveelutions just like Kanto did? You know, Kanto has Vaporeon, Flareon, and Jolteon, and it forms a chain. Jolteon beats Vaporeon, Vaporeon beats Flareon. This was supposed to be the case in Johto as well, except Espeon was going to beat Umbreon, and Umbreon was going to beat Leafeon. And that may all sound wild, but yes, it is true. Originally, GameFreak had a Grass-type Eeveelution in the beta version of Pokemon Gold and Silver, and Umbreon was actually a Poison type, and then Espeon was a Psychic type. So it was going to be Espeon's Psychic beats Umbreon's Poison, and then Umbreon's Poison beats Leafeon's Grass. Ultimately, Leafeon was cut, and Umbreon ended up being a Dark type instead to kind of promote that brand new typing that they were introducing. Now, the fun thing about this is that this is actually still referenced in the games, as it talks about in a bunch of Umbreon's dex entries that it sweats poison. Or that its sweat is poisonous, rather. Which is just kind of a really nice nod to Umbreon's origins and where he came from. Now let's take a trip over to the Hoenn region. So it's pretty common in Pokemon games for Game Freak to kind of put themselves into the game. Somewhere in the games you can usually find a Game Freak office, and you can meet Junichi Masuda, and you can usually even battle some people in there. All kinds of fun stuff. So we know, and I think everybody knows, that Game Freak inserts themselves into the game. But did you know that Junichi Masuda also inserted his own daughter into one of the games? That is his daughter, Kiri. Kiri was inserted into Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. When you play the game in Sootopolis City, you will meet a girl who will hand out berries. This girl begins by saying, "My name is Kiri." The reason this is because Junichi Masuda and his wife happened to have their daughter right around the time that Ruby and Sapphire were nearing completion. And so, just overjoyed by having a daughter, Junichi Masuda decided, you know what, this isn't good enough. She needs to be a part of this franchise, and put her in. So that's very sweet, I think, and just kind of cool that he can, you know, show his daughter Ruby and Sapphire and be like, hey, look, there's you. You know, that's adorable. I love it. So there you have it, guys. Those are some really cool facts from throughout the Pokemon franchise. Let me know, did you know all of these? Did you know some of these? What were the things you didn't know? And what are your thoughts on these? Also, why don't you let me know some facts that maybe I don't know about the franchise? I love learning about the franchise because obviously I love the franchise, so I'm all game for that. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to also like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. And until next time, I will see all of you later.